You smell it before you see it. Long before the town appears on the horizon, before the white walls, before the harbor, before the masts of the cargo ships, the wind coming off the coast of Roman Hispania carries something thick and strange. Salt, brine. The deep, dark scent of the sea concentrated 1,000 times over, hanging in the hot air like smoke. Follow that smell down to the shoreline, and you find its source, row upon row of enormous stone vats cut into the ground at the edge of the water, open to the blazing Mediterranean sun. Each one is big enough to bathe an ox, and each one is filled to the brim with fish, thousands of them, layered with glittering white salt, slowly dissolving in the heat. To a stranger, it looks like madness. An entire industry, an entire town, devoted to letting fish rot in the sun. But lean over one of the older vats, one that has been sitting for months, and the picture changes. Beneath a dark crust, the liquid inside has turned clear. Amber, golden, like honey thinned with seawater. Workers draw it off with the care of men handling molten glass, straining it through fine baskets, letting it run glittering into slender clay jars. This liquid is called garum. It is the fermented fish sauce of the ancient world, the single most important flavor in Roman cooking, poured onto almost everything Romans ate for close to 1,000 years. And at its finest, this golden runoff from a vat of salted fish will sell, measure, for more than the greatest wines of the empire. Emperors demand it. Doctors prescribe it. Armies march with it. Counterfeiters risk everything to fake it, which leaves us with one of history's strangest questions. How did rotting fish become liquid gold, and quietly shape trade, medicine, war, and the taste of food we still eat today? To answer that, we have to start with a smell nobody could escape. The ancient Mediterranean was a world that lived and died by fish, and fish is a race against the sun. In summer heat, a morning's catch begins to turn by afternoon. The eyes cloud, the flesh softens, the smell shifts from ocean fresh to unmistakably wrong. For fishing families along the coasts of Greece, Phoenicia, and Spain, every big catch carried the same threat. Wealth at dawn, garbage by dusk. Salt could save the flesh. But somewhere on those coasts, centuries before Rome rose, someone discovered that the parts nobody wanted, the guts, the blood, the heads, held a secret, packed in exactly the right amount of salt, and left in the warmth, they didn't rot at all. The salt kept decay locked out while the fish slowly broke itself down from within, flesh melting into liquid over the long, hot months. What rose from those vats was a transformation that bordered on alchemy. The stench of the early weeks faded. The murk settled, and what remained was that clear amber liquid with a taste unlike anything else on earth. Intensely salty, yes, but underneath the salt, something deeper. Rich, meaty, savory in a way that made every food it touched taste more like itself. Modern science has a name for that taste. Umami, the fifth taste. The same deep savoriness found in aged cheese, cured ham, and soy sauce. Chemists only identified it in the 20th century. Mediterranean fishermen had been bottling it for over 2,000 years. The Greeks called the sauce garum. Rome, which borrowed everything worth having, called it garum, and fell for it completely. Step into a Roman kitchen, anywhere in the empire, and you would find it. In a senator's seaside villa, a fine glass flask of pale golden garum, kept under lock like jewelry. in a cramped apartment above a bakery in the capital, a small clay jug of the cheap stuff, guarded just as jealously. The great Roman recipe collection attributed to Apicius survives to this day, and reading it is almost comical. Recipe after recipe, hundreds of them, and nearly every single one calls for garum. It went into stews, over roasted meats, into vegetables and eggs and shellfish. And then it went places you would never expect. The Romans put fish sauce in their desserts. Genuinely, one surviving recipe combines pears, honey, eggs, and garum. They stirred it into sweet wine and drank it as a cocktail called oinogarum. They blended it with vinegar, with oil, with water, each mixture with its own name and its own loyal drinkers. To the Roman tongue, that dark, salty depth didn't fight with sweetness. It completed it. A Roman pastry cook would have understood salted caramel instantly, and wondered what took us so long. But if garum came from fish scraps and salt, the cheapest materials on any coast, how did it become one of the most expensive liquids in the ancient world? Because not all garum was equal, not remotely. At the bottom sat alec, the thick gray sludge left in the vat after the good liquid was drawn off. Pungent, gritty, spread on bread by slaves and the poor. Above it, everyday garum for soldiers and shopkeepers, sharp, cloudy, honest. But at the very top gleamed something Romans discussed the way collectors discuss vintage wine. Garum sociorum, garum of the Allies, made on the coast of southern Spain exclusively from mackerel, fermented and aged with obsessive care until it poured like dark liquid amber, almost syrupy, catching the lamplight at dinner parties. Pliny the Elder, Rome's great naturalist, recorded its price with open disbelief. No liquid on earth except the rarest perfume sold for more. A single small jar could cost a workman weeks of wages. Hosts were judged by the garum on their table. Guests noticed. And where there is that kind of money, there is fraud. Roman markets crawled with fake garum, cheap sauce doctored, diluted, and poured into jars stamped with famous makers' names. We know because the makers fought back with the ancient world's version of brand protection. Labels painted directly onto the amphorae, declaring the maker, the grade, the fish, sometimes even boasts of purity. Flower of garum, the finest of the fine. Archaeologists have pulled hundreds of these labeled jars from ruins and shipwrecks. 2,000 years before designer knockoffs, Rome was already fighting a war over luxury counterfeits, over fish sauce. One more surprise hides in the perfume comparison, because it wasn't only a comparison. Wealthy Roman women were said to dab garum-based preparations on the skin, and physicians mixed it into cosmetics and ointments. The most expensive scent and the most expensive sauce in the empire lived side by side on the same dressing tables. And occasionally, it seems, in the same bottle. To feed this appetite, the coastline of an entire sea was transformed. From the Atlantic shores of Portugal and Morocco, around Spain, along North Africa, and out to the Black Sea, hundreds of fish salting factories rose at the water's edge. Their ruins still stand. At Bailo Claudia, near the Strait of Gibraltar, you can walk today among rows of open stone vats, their waterproof linings intact after 2 millennia, sea wind moving through the broken columns above them. At Lixus in Morocco, the vats stretch on and on, a factory floor from the age of togas. Imagine one at the height of the season. The tuna are running through the strait, and the whole town is in motion. The air is a wall of smells: fresh fish, drying salt, wood smoke, hot stone, the deep fermenting breath of the older vats. Gutting knives flash and click against stone tables in a rhythm like rain. Baskets of salt arrive white and glittering from the evaporation pans, crusting the workers' forearms like frost. Layer by layer, fish, salt, the vats fill, packed with a mason's precision, because a vat mixed wrong doesn't ferment. It genuinely rots, and a season's wages rise into the sky as stench. Then the sun takes over. For 2 months, 3, sometimes most of a year. The town waits, and the smell of waiting hangs over everything. The finished sauce, strained golden and clear, was sealed into slender amphorae and carried down to the ships. And the ships tell us how big this really was. Marine archaeologists diving on Roman wrecks keep finding the same cargo. Garum amphorae by the hundred, stacked in dark holds like wine in a cellar. Some, when raised after 20 centuries underwater, still carrying a faint ghost of the smell. Fish sauce moved across the empire alongside grain, wine, and olive oil, the essential liquids of the Roman world. Fortunes rode on it. One of the richest men in Pompeii, Aulus Umbricius Scaurus, built his entire wealth on fish sauce, and paved the floor of his mansion with mosaics of his own garum jars, slogans included. He put his product in his floor the way a modern billionaire puts his name on a tower. Those trade routes carried garum somewhere stranger than any dining room. They carried it to war. Picture a Roman legionary on the northern frontier. Hadrian's Wall in winter, sleet driving sideways, breath fogging over a bowl of gray porridge that tastes of nothing. Excavations of Roman forts from Britain to the Danube keep turning up the same fragments. Garum amphorae, shipped 1,000 miles from the sunlit vats of Spain. The army bought fish sauce in industrial quantities. A dark splash of it turned frontier rations from punishment into dinner, and without anyone understanding why, it quietly delivered protein, minerals, and vitamins that a bread-heavy military diet badly lacked. Rome conquered the world on discipline, roads, and fermented fish. The doctors had noticed something too. Physicians prescribed garum for digestive troubles, ulcers, dysentery, even dog bites and burns. Much of it was ancient guesswork, but perhaps not all. Fermented fish sauces teem with compounds that modern researchers have found to be genuinely antimicrobial and gut-friendly. Rome was spooning a probiotic onto dinner and calling it medicine. They were more right than they knew. And then, in the summer of the year 79, the story gained its most extraordinary witness. When Vesuvius buried Pompeii, it froze the city's fish sauce trade in a single afternoon. In one garum shop, archaeologists found the vats still full, and inside, thousands of tiny fish bones, perfectly preserved. Specialists could identify the species and even the season. Pickerel, caught that summer, still mid-ferment when the sky turned to fire. The ash that killed the city preserved, in one clay vat, the most detailed snapshot of ancient food production ever found. We know what Pompeii's dinner would have tasted like, down to the bones. Those same ruins held one more twist, quiet and remarkable. Among the labeled jars, archaeologists found garum marked castimoniale, made only from scaled fish, in keeping with religious purity laws. Kosher garum, in effect, produced for the Jewish communities of the Roman world. Think about what that means. This sauce was so essential, so woven into daily life, that rather than anyone giving it up, the industry adapted its recipes to faith. Rich and poor, Roman and foreigner, pagan and Jew. Everyone's food tasted of the same sea. So, here was a substance that flavored desserts and perfumes, fed emperors and slaves, funded fortunes, supplied armies, doubled as medicine, and inspired an entire industry of counterfeits. And then it vanished. Not overnight. Empires don't fall in an evening, and neither do their flavors. But as Rome's western half crumbled through the 5th century, everything Garum needed began to fail. The coastal factories needed peace, and raiders made the shoreline a gamble. The trade needed safe sea lanes, and the sea lanes emptied. Above all, Garum needed salt in mountains, and salt, as central power collapsed, became scarce, taxed, and fought over. A golden industry built on cheap salt and calm seas could not survive a world with neither. The vats at Baelo Claudia filled with sand. The kilns went cold. The great smell faded from the coastlines. Within a few centuries, European scholars reading ancient recipes were genuinely baffled by this garum the texts kept praising. Some concluded, noses wrinkling at the description, that the mighty Romans, builders of aqueducts and empires, must simply have had revolting taste. Europe forgot. But here is the secret the map was keeping. The world didn't. Travel today to the Vietnamese island of Phu Quoc and step inside one of the great fish sauce houses. Enormous wooden barrels, taller than a man, stand in dim warehouses where the air itself tastes of salt and thyme. Inside, anchovies and sea salt ferment slowly in tropical heat, and from the taps at the base of each barrel runs a liquid the color of dark amber, the prized first press, drawn off like the first cold pressing of olive oil. The Vietnamese call it nuoc mam. In Thailand, it is nam pla. In the Philippines, patis. Whether these traditions arose on their own or were touched, long ago, by trade routes linking Rome to Asia is a question historians still argue. But the craft is the same, the golden color is the same, and the taste, that deep, dark, ancient savor, is the same. Half the cooking of Southeast Asia rests on it tonight, and Europe kept a relic without knowing it. In the fishing village of Satara on Italy's Amalfi Coast, families still draw thin amber liquid from barrels of salted anchovies. Colatura di Alici, almost certainly a direct descendant of Roman garum, surviving in one bay like a living fossil. Even the word ketchup traces back, through centuries of borrowing and mutation, to an Asian fish sauce that British sailors tried to copy at home. The bottle on every diner table on Earth is, in its distant ancestry, a jar of fermented fish. Which brings us back to that smell on the wind, the one that reached you before the town did. To Roman noses, it wasn't a stench. It was the smell of money, of dinner, of home. It meant the vats were working, the ships would sail, the empire would eat well. That golden liquid, strained drop by drop from stone and salt and sunlight, connected a fisherman on the Spanish coast to a soldier freezing in Britain, a senator's banquet in Rome, a perfumed dressing table, a kosher kitchen in Pompeii, and, across an ocean of centuries, to a wooden barrel in Vietnam, and a pan hissing on a stove tonight. We like to think civilizations are built from marble and iron, from laws and legions, but they are also built from this, the small, essential things that make life taste like something, passed hand to hand until no one remembers where they began. Rome left us roads, arches, and alphabets. It also left us a flavor, deep, dark, and golden, still moving quietly through the world's kitchens. 2,000 years after the last Roman poured it over dinner. Some empires never really fall. Some just simmer on, one drop at a time.